Today we're beginning chapter 4 of Tanya. We're learning today about soul garments. So our soul has 3 garments: thought, speech, and action. Now, the soul is like the supercharged with energy, and the thing closest to it, the most inner garment, is thoughts. And we notice that thoughts do not stop. They're just like always have the energy flowing into it from the soul. Speech is less frequent and also less immediate in terms of the process of how speech happens. And action is like the outer garment is even more removed from the soul. So if you want to think of it in terms of literally garments, like the closest garment to your skin would be thought, the outer garment would be speech, and like the overcoat, the jacket, would be action in terms of like closeness or like immediacy of the energy flowing from the soul into that garment. So the really good news is that you're not your thoughts, right? We all have all kinds of crazy thoughts, right? I could be thinking, oh my God, I can't believe she's wearing that. Or, ugh, like I really don't want to help this person because maybe it's going to harm me if I help them, right? But all these thoughts flooding through, like I'm not those thoughts. Like if I don't like the thoughts I'm thinking, they're clothing, they're garments of the soul. They're gimel levushim d'neshama, 3 garments of the soul. So if I don't like a thought, just the same way if my clothes get dirty, I clean it or I change it, trying something new. If I don't like my speech, say new things. If I don't like my actions, change up my actions. Just like I can go buy a new wardrobe or do a load of laundry, I can change my thought, speech, and actions. And therefore, there's no room to like remorse over our thought, speech, and action because yes, thought, speech, and actions are powerful. They are soul garments, right? They are extraordinarily powerful, but they're not us. Our essence, our soul always remains pure and whole, regardless of our thought, speech, and action. Now, of course, we want to keep our thought, speech, and action as aligned with the energy of our soul as we possibly can. So when I was first learning this concept, I was in a class with this girl who is a New York fashion designer. And when she heard about this, she's like, oh my gosh, I want to make a 613 line of soul garments. So it's like, wow, what are you wearing from the 613 collection today, right? Because when we are doing mitzvahs, we are wearing mitzvah soul garments. So here's our little advertisement I made for you guys. The latest fashion in soul garments. What is your soul wearing this season? Try on our 613 collection. Just transform your thoughts, speech, and actions. Thought, speech, and deed with our collection. Since 2448, meaning since the giving of the Torah, we can try on these fashionable soul garments. And what I loved about her idea is that just like I want my clothing to be beautiful, I want my thought, speech, and action to be beautiful. And just really understand the idea that I can always change up my thought, speech, and action. It's a new seed. It's a new opportunity to change it up. When you're engaged in the 613 mitzvahs, commandments, your divine soul, right, the godly soul we've been talking about, is garbed through thinking words of Torah, speaking words of Torah, and doing the physical actions necessary to perform the mitzvahs. So the 613 mitzvahs are how we're going to dress up our thought, speech, and action in godliness. Okay, so to engage your Chachma, Bina, and Das in Torah, you need the soul garment of thought. So we understand the idea of Chachma, Bina, Das, meaning inquiry is Chachma, Bina is going into all the details, really analyzing, and Das is getting to the inner place of knowing. So in order to engage my Chachma, Bina, Das, these 3 soul powers that I have in the Torah, then I need the soul garment of thought. That soul garment of thought is what allows me to engage my Chachma, Bina, Das, these 3 soul powers. Now let's talk about the motive powers. The motive powers of the soul are engaged in observing the Torah through the garments of action and speech. So those are the midos we talked about, which are chesed, gevurah, tiferet, netzek, hod, yisod, malchus, the motive powers of our soul. The highest use of speech is actually verbalizing words of Torah. And words of Torah studies is equal to all of the commandments. It's like 613 in one. And so when we're learning Torah, there's an idea not just to be thinking it, because I'm just garbing I'm just trying on the soul garment of thought with Torah, but I want to bring it also to the soul garment of speech. And speech is actually considered in many ways as an action, since it still has that physical aspect of it. So I want to not just be thinking words of Torah, but verbalizing them. In that moment, both my thoughts, my speech, and in a way my actions, all 3 soul garments are wrapped up in the mitzvah of Torah study, which is equal to all the mitzvahs. Love is the motivator between all the 248 positive mitzvot. So remember we talked about how love and awe are the source of all emotions. Any emotion a person's going to experience, either it's love, I want to draw close to it, or fear, awe, I want to distance myself. Okay? So love is the motivator between the 245 positive mitzvahs. Why is this? Because the person who authentically loves God's name and desires to be truly attached to him expresses that love through the 248 mitzvahs. God is very vulnerable and honest with us. God says, my love language is the 248 mitzvahs. My love language is Shabbat, for example, keeping Shabbat. So if I really love someone, don't want to just keep that love in my heart. I want to be able to express it and really give to that person. At the end of the day, the root word ahava, the root for ahava, love, is connected to hav, which means to give. To really love someone is really to give to them. And just like I'm not going to get someone a present that they don't like, it's just that, oh, I want them to have it, but they're not actually going to appreciate it. We want to love people the way that they want to be loved. And so God is being vulnerable and saying, this is how I want to be loved. The 240 positive mitzvahs, those are my love languages. That's my love language. So the person who really loves God is going to be drawn to the 248 mitzvahs. The only way to truly attach oneself to God, and by this we mean like a true attachment, is the 248 positive mitzvahs, as they are the organs of the king. Hashem puts his own very being, so to speak, into the mitzvahs. And so the moment I'm doing a mitzvah, my being is one with that, and my body becomes like the organs of the king. I become that vessel for God's will. We're going to go into that concept more in detail and later in Tanya. So we want to know what is the source of the 365 prohibitions. So that is from awe. Awe is a motivator between the 365 prohibitions, right? So love is for the 248. It draws me close. I want to do something for God. And the 365 prohibitions, if I'm not going to do that, is because of my awe of Hashem. So there's two levels of awe that the Tanya is going to help us explore here. The first is, because of your awe, you do not rebel against the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy Blessed One. This isn't based on a fear of being disconnected from God, rather not wanting to disobey God, right? God's the king and God said so, so I want to respect that, right? Just basics. But the higher or deeper aspect is the very act of the prohibition is painful to you, since you feel bashful in the presence of God's greatness. To insult his honor by doing what is evil in his eyes, right? If you really respect someone, you're going to do something that you know they don't appreciate right in front of them. We can understand how that isn't something that we want to do. And what is this we're talking about? All those disgusting things which
One moment.
All those disgusting things.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again in a moment.
Sorry. Okay. All those disgusting things which God hates, which is, we learned that verse in Devarim. So basically, you appreciate why God hates these prohibitions, and that influences your decision. So let's talk about why does God hate these acts. Quote from the Practical Tanya, because they are the energy of all the negative forces of the universe. The Klipa and Sitra Achra, which draw their life force from man's mortal transgressions, and their hold on him is through the 365 prohibitions. So through the 240 positive mitzvahs, we're drawing close to God. We're drawing God into the world. Versus Klipa and Sitra Achra are concealment, their darkness, their negativity. They're distancing me from God. And so when a person does one of the 365 prohibitions, we're distancing ourselves from God, and we're adding more darkness into the world. We're adding more concealment. So we can appreciate that Hashem wants to be close to us. So if I'm going to do something that's going to distance myself and distance the whole world from that point of ultimate connection, then of course that's disgusting in God's eyes, and it's disgusting in my eyes, because the connection is so profound and so important to me that I wouldn't want to do anything to hurt that connection. Thank you for taking the time to learn the daily Tanya together.